having right now, especially in Dubai. Now, a lifestyle allowance for women. Dubai RJ stirs up an interesting debate, and here's all the information on that. Now, an ace Dubai-based radio host for Big FM 106.2, Pavitra Menon, she shared some food for thought, which stirred up quite a conversation on social media. Now, the multi-talented presenter shared her 2 cents on how women, especially in Dubai, need to constantly spruce up their appearances to keep up with societal expectations. Now, expressing that women in media industry in particular should be granted a lifestyle allowance to help them represent the brand in a more conscientious manner.
In her video, she could be heard saying, we spend so much money, time and effort, salon services, buying new clothes, just so we can spruce up and keep up with society for the kind of work that we do, especially for women in media.
Now, her notion of sorts attracted a string of reactions, mostly in her favor, mostly in the favor of the idea, and also, of course, arguing for the cause. One even said employees represent the face of their companies, hence investing in your employee is going to be beneficial for both, and also added, one such example of a company is Emirates. Of course, Emirates and what they do for the employees, which is the red bag, the red shoes, and particularly the red lipstick for all, it really makes the company stand out. So of course it calls into the question of like brand image and how employees are expected to represent the company and represent the brand, and how, of course, should employers invest in that, in kind of that vanity situation altogether?
That's one question.
Yeah.
So if you're in a job that's in the public eye, should employers invest in it? However, what I found a little bit difficult and jarring with the title of this conversation is that it was a lifestyle allowance for women.
Mm-hmm.
And it came out obviously on, was it the day of or International Women's Day or the day after?
On the occasion of, yeah.
And I just think that the whole point of that day is to break the bias and to kind of move forward into more of an equal society. And how can we kind of try to be equal and expect to be equal if you're asking for kind of additional sums? And, you know, we in a very small way, I guess, work in media. And anything that we do is our choice. And also, I think we live in a city, we need to be very honest about the city that we live in, that there is a massive pressure. People in media look a certain way. And but that doesn't mean that we should kind of enhance those pressures by asking for allowances. Like, we can actually say, well, actually, we don't need to feed into that. And if you're expecting allowances, I think it's like, okay, fine, if there needs to be an allowance for men and women, because it can be expensive, maybe, but actually at the very end of the scale, why do we not feed into that allowance and actually make a stand and say, well, maybe we can put the onus back and say, let's remove the pressure in a certain way, rather than, because if you get an allowance, then you're actually feeding into that.
I completely get your point, but at the same time, all these jobs, that not just media, but like, for example, when you're a brand ambassador for a certain company, when you have to represent, when you have to go and, I don't know, like pitch sales, marketing, like so many job roles where you're required to look super presentable and you're required to go out there and just represent the company. It's like you have to.
But what is super presentable and what is dressing appropriately? Like if we buy like a basic shirt, if we brush our hair, which now I'm realizing my hair is probably not that well brushed, but like you brush your hair, you go out and look super presentable. Like there is in media here in the UAE, it's at another level, right? It's like we have to be honest, like people, you know, people get work done, people's lips look a certain way, their cheeks look a certain way, like, and that's kind of what it's turning towards, rather than just brush your hair, stick on some deodorant, put on a shirt.
I mean, yeah, of course, like you do, each person, individual can take it to their person, like take it to another level, of course, like depending on what they want. But this is, I mean, we would think in just terms of the basic, like, grooming allowance, I guess.
But then does everyone get one? Like, how are we to say, or if there was an allowance, like how is an employer to then say, your job for you need to be presentable, but you don't? You know what I mean? And like, we're kind of all public facing in a way. Like we sit here in front of a camera. However, our sales team, they go out and meet people, or everyone in our office, actually, because we have people coming to the office, everyone is public facing. So therefore, everyone gets a grooming allowance. And then therefore, does everyone have to look a certain way? And then what if I have an allowance, but I don't want it? What if I don't want to put it towards that? I'm saying that could be a response from certain people in the company.
Or the company can obviously arrange for these kind of services and them coming to the office. But I mean, I get your whole point on like the marketing, sales, everyone has to go out and meet people. But then if in particular, because this question was addressed to people in the media. Now I completely understand your point on like why just women. It can be directed to both, you know, men and women in the media industry who have to face cameras, who have obligations, public obligations and public appearances where they have to look a certain way. I would think that services for them should be something that's even considered.
Yeah, and like you said, it's a really interesting question because there was a very, very mixed response on it, and therefore we'd love your thoughts. And the response went both ways. The response here, Katie Jensen Media, she said, as a woman in media, she finds them disheartening. You know, like people can choose to look a certain way, but it could have an impact on young women if we are expected to look a certain way.
Yeah.
Because you don't want those expectations. But then obviously there was a lot of comments supporting it as well. So yeah, it's a massive mixed debate. It's the first time I've heard it. It's the first time I've heard the suggestion. Although, you know, on a personal basis, I'll take it on the house. Should we jump on to